About 7,000 Maring speakers live on the slopes of the Bismarck Mountains in the territory of New Guinea. Just as they can be identified as Maring and people of the New Guinea highlands by the language they speak, they can also be identified by the forms and rhythms of their gatherings and by their patterns of bodily movement. These patterns can be analyzed in terms of how the person uses his body, how he uses the space around himself, and how he uses time. A Maring uses his body in large sections. The trunk is held as one unit, with no twisting between chest and pelvis. There is little fine differentiation between the limbs, a characteristic which is especially clear in the Maring use of hands. Fingers generally move all at once. Similarly, there is little complex differentiation in the use of surrounding space. Most movements are a folding or unfolding through space, with little emphasis on particular direction. When the motion is less vague, it usually creates a line or a curve in a plane, but never complex three-dimensional loops. Changes of direction are most frequently angular or pointed, often creating a reversing pattern. Maring use of time is also simple. When a Maring produces a clear-cut rhythm, it is composed of a single beat without special accents or subdivisions. In working activities, this simple rhythm is adjusted to the contingencies of the material environment. Small family groups gather in their yards sometime after daybreak. If the weather is rainy, and it often is, people remain close to their houses. If the weather is fine, people eventually set off to their gardens. Women with a digging stick and a string bag in which they carry all their burdens slung from their head. No attempt is made to impose a set of divisions upon the span of the day. The timing of activities varies from day to day within a wide range. The Maring impose little form upon their landscape. Paths follow the contours of the land. Trees and underbrush are cleared only for gardens and yards. Sites are leveled only for dance grounds and houses. The Sweden gardens are scattered throughout the landscape, some adjacent to houses, others more than an hour's walk away. People go to gardens alone, or, when it suits their fancy, in small groups, threading their way along the narrow paths. Single file is the only clear geometrical group formation visible in daily life. At any given time, a Maring man or woman has gardens at several stages of the Swidden cycle, being cleared and fenced, being planted, being weeded and harvested, or lying fallow. Men plant and care for bananas and also sugarcane. They do the heavy work of preparing the gardens, clearing trees, and building fences. The inventory of gardening tools is small: digging sticks, bush knives, and axes. As he works, the man uses his trunk as a solid unit and moves all the joints of his arms simultaneously. The paths traced by his arms and trunk are predominantly straight or indeterminate, with pointed changes of direction, angular changes, and an occasional curve. The women move on to mature gardens, where they will weed and harvest food for the evening meal. In contrast to women, men carry burdens slung over one shoulder. Many tree trunks are left standing in the cleared garden to serve as support for bean vines and sugar cane. Planting gourd seeds in her plot in a large garden, a woman brushes away dried underbrush. Her feet create indeterminate paths, the brush being scattered in no particular consistent direction. She holds the seed container and uses an ordinary digging stick to make a hole for each seed. Gourds, like other marring crops, are not planted in arbitrary spatial patterns.
Malwal is one of the oldest men in the village of Chingach. Malwal says, "We have always had cows, ever since God gave them to us. They are kept in the family and passed down from father to son, father to son." Cows give us everything. They are our happiness. When we need help from God, we take an ox and sacrifice it to him. Then we ask him for a good crop of grain or to remove some terrible sickness. You can sacrifice an ox to the god of grass or to the god of the sky when he comes to your house. And you can make a sacrifice just to thank God for giving you life. A Nuer does not kill his animal without reason. He must sacrifice it to God. The village of Chingach is almost a mile from the river. In the rainy season, the river will overflow its banks and flood the land for many miles. The houses will stand in 2 feet of water, and the people will move to another village on higher ground. An old man wants to divorce his youngest wife because she has not borne him a child. He brings his case to the wife's relatives, asking that his cows be returned. The wife's family claims that some of the cows originally promised have not been given, and others have been used to pay a debt. Pieces of straw represent the animals. They argue that it is too soon to prove she is infertile. A settlement may take several years. Sometimes in such cases, a dissatisfied party goes in the night and takes the cows in question, feeling they are rightfully his. In the heat of mid-afternoon, a man invites his friends to drink kong, a kind of beer which his wife has made from fermented grain. A man drinks only with men of his own age group. Members of the age group called Li Zhang are now in their late 30s, and most are heads of households in the village.
正さんの場合は見合い
見合い
でしたね。
おとなしかったから
素晴らしいおじさんだったもんね。
なんだか
で正雄さんも
私らはね언제 마다ちゃんと치밀었대요。あいこの女子村からなんて치밀었던 놈 몰랐어。
おっぴさんが決めて。
おっぴさんだり언제
おじさまだおじさんたち
おじさんたちそれでもらえって言われてどういう気持ちでした？
結婚式に初めて会うんだけど。
そうですか？
そうだしな昔は。
どうでした？
私は 俺は最初から見てくれたよね。疲れたから。
あ、そう。
そういうもの昔はね。
久井さんの場合は見合いでしたでしょ。
はい、そう
トシ
です。
さんも見合いかしら。
私の場合見合いっていうわけでもないのも
ギリギリですか。
ギリギリ
ギリギリ。
強制的で
強制的って
そうですか。
うんあそこにいい人いたからねだからあの人いかんべんぐらいの調子でさ
あ、いかんべんって。いかがですかってことじゃなくて。
いや仲人する人がねあそこにいい人いるからだからあの人たらいいんでないのっていうのそういう気持ちでさはんだらっていうわけで
一緒だった
うん
かわいそうだ。
かわいそうだった
見合いも何も願ってよもう終戦直後だもん昭和20年だもんねそれこそ食べ物もないっていうような時だったもんねただ正志のお母さんが亡くなったそれでもってその後目に行くんだっていう仲人さんの話で正直来たわけなので来てみればもうね話この話は直接うちの中から聞いたわけでないので他人との付き合いでもってさ他人様があそこからも来たんだよあそこからも来たんだよあそこから出て行ったんだよあそこから入ってきたんだよそして正志の母ちゃんはあそこのとこから入ってきたんだよあんたで何年目なんだよって言われた時に本当に私ねもうがっかりしてしまってね
そんな話やっぱり
全然なことさはしてけなかったね
それで本当結婚して初めて会うっていうことでしたかしら。
あ、昔はそうらしいですね。
おっぴさんのとこだ。
おっぴさんそうですか。
何し
結婚お嫁さん見合いでしたねおっぴさんの場合は。
見合いはしないね。あの時は。
こいつ前ですよ。
もう
見合いっつうの
本当は
はなかった
死ぬなってあれだろ。甲子園と初めて見
おいでおっぴさんは全
そん
然
なもの来るんだかと思って。
本当ですかおっぴさん。
みんな本当です。
そうだしね
昔は。
本当にその結婚する日までお嫁さんには会わなかったわけですね。
そうです。そう。
今でもはっきりと覚えてらっしゃる。
あ
どうでした
あ覚えています。
あそこの玄関から入ってきて
銀貨でこっくらいなの。
あそれ初めて見ておっぴさんはなんと思いました。
やっぱりあん時の感想だな。
随分うちらのことだ。
やろっこだったから。
なるほど。それで挨拶
なんぼで聞くんだか
なんぼで結婚したの。
南方でぬず20
歳ぐらい。
ああ、肌
ぬ
作り。
ずいつの子だもん。
肌作りしたんだな。
若かったですね。
うん
それでお会いしてこうなんか挨拶をするわけですか初めて。
何でもすまし。
なんだねえの。
あしない。
昔はこんなこと願ったな。
ああ。リバーさんとの間どうでしたかしらそのお嫁に来られてですね。
そうねもう喋りたいことも語りたいことも語れないって感じだったのやっぱりなんていうかこう姑様っていう意識してしまってんのね嫁姑っていうそういう意識があったの今はねもうなんていうかな私でさえはもう友達みたいなの
なるほどそういう感じはするんですけど僕
もうそんなねもう嫁だ姑だっていう感じではねえなやんだもんそういうこと
久井さん初めて嫁に来られた時どうでしたその時さんお姑
そうだよね本当にね言っていてやっぱり姑は姑だべな
だね。やっぱり本当に。
どういう感じでしたそれすごく面白い
やっぱり今みたいにお母さんもほらおっぴばちゃんさ
いたもの、私の姑にまだいたんだもん
まだいたのおっぴばちゃんがね。身夫婦だったの。
身夫婦だもんこんなに喋れないんだもん
そしたら一番下にいるわけです
私。
なるほど入ってきたとどう感じましたか本当にお嫁にもう来たての頃
やっぱりお金が食べな
だね二人からね。
勤めは大変だったべよね
おっぴばあさんは怖かったねえなるほどねそれは面白いんだ
全然その来た晩には全然面会ってしなかったものだって おばんちゃんのおぺばあちゃんの顔って見られなかったもん。次の朝起きてみて初めてね、私早く起きて一番先に起きるのが嫁ごたと。私寝つかんなかったよ。そして何したらいいんだか分かんなくてうろうろって言いだったもん。そしたっけそのかまどに水釜って大きな釜さ火たぐんだったのね。まあそこのマヤにあったの。昔は向こうのマヤでないからうちのマヤだったからね。それさお湯飲ませんの全部だからね、大きなこういう風呂釜みたいな大きな水釜って言ってね、それさスニッパ一丸ぐらい炊いて、そしてねお湯を沸かして、そしてねお湯飲ませるの。それが嫁の一番先のね仕事だったのね。その前にもね、私起きる前におっぺばあちゃん起きていいんだもの。
何時頃ですか、それとしたの？
そうね、辺りで何時頃かな。辺り早いからね、朝仕事にわらぶちしたりわらすぐったりだったからね、朝に4時頃起きんのかな。そしてもうパチッパチッとおっぴばあちゃんがね火たぎつけてんだもの。だからもう私も本当に寝過ごしては大変だって頭でねわらわら起きるの。だから私よりも今のじいちゃんね、じいちゃんを先に起こしてきてさ、起こして、そうして私その後言うもんだったらなんて言われるんだろう。おっからばっかりおっかなかったもん。だから私それやんだから今でももう久より先に起きたことない全然。つらかった。それが一番つらかったね、やっぱり朝起きるのが。なんぼ早く起きましょうと思ってもう起きてんだもん、おばあちゃんが。よくあれ本当に大したもんだったね、おばあちゃんはね。私感心するもん、今でも朝起きだけは。
The film opens as Sinabimi is comforted by her sister. Her brother, Uua, is infuriated by the beating. He takes up his club and marches to the center of the village and publicly insults Mohesiwa. Mohesiwa comes out to fight. He thrashes wildly at Uua, who keeps his distance and then delivers a calculated blow with his larger club, hitting Mohesiwa on the forearm. Stunned and angered, Mohesiwa attacks as if to use his bow stave as a dangerous thrusting spear, and Uua backs off, deflecting the blows with his club. Mohesiwa's younger brother, realizing that Mohesiwa has been injured, rushes out to repel Uua until Mohesiwa can regain his advantage and take up a longer club. Their sister quickly brings Mohesiwa a more suitable club. The three men temporarily square off, staring at each other. Mohesiwa's mother approaches, takes the bow stave away, and reprimands Uua. She comforts her son by stroking his injured arm, while Mohesiwa's sister continues to provoke the situation with vicious insults. A small crowd gathers, but the conflict stabilizes at a level where vituperous insults and hostile glares are passing back and forth between the principals of the fight. Mohesiwa quits the area. He leaves his younger brother to keep his assailant at bay and meet any new attack. The fight seems as though it were over at this point. However, Sinabimi's husband, Yoenakua, and his brother, Kebua,
are not going to allow it to end, and they fetch their axes and machetes. Although it was Yoinakua's wife who was beaten by Mohesiwa, it is Kebua, his brother, who wants to settle the matter with his axe. Kebua attacks Mohesiwa, but Mohesiwa's kinswomen seize the axe handle and try to prevent him from striking. This diversion gives Mohesiwa enough time to seize the axe handle himself and struggle with Kebua until help from his male kinsman arrives. Since Yoinakua could not deliver a clean blow with his machete during this struggle without hitting his own brother, he tries to get behind Mohesiwa and attack him from that angle. Mohesiwa's kinsmen send the women to fetch axes and machetes, for the fight has now escalated. Mohesiwa's younger brother again comes to his aid, this time carrying a machete. He arrives just as Kebua manages to wrest his axe from Mohesiwa and strike him soundly on the leg with the blunt edge. Infuriated, Mohesiwa's brother discards his machete and takes up an axe. He attacks Kebua, delivering a series of crunching blows with the dull side of the axe. Nanokawa, the leader of the visiting faction, wearing green feathers on his upper arms, realizes that the fight is getting serious and steps in to try to prevent further injuries. He carries no weapon, relying on his well-deserved and often demonstrated authority. Mohesiwa's brother, after delivering several blows on Kebua's legs with the dull side of his axe, threatens to escalate the fight even further. He turns the sharp side of his axe upward and prepares to hit Kebua on the head. Alarmed by this new threat, a woman from Kebua's group seizes his axe handle, turns the sharp side back down, and drags him out of the fight. Kebua sees that his back is turned and rushes him from behind. He strikes a powerful overhead blow with his axe, the dull side forward, hitting Mohesiwa's brother squarely in the middle of the back. He instantly collapses to the ground and lies there motionless. The situation is now very tense, for it is not clear if the young man has been killed or is merely unconscious. Nanokawa, alarmed at this, quickly takes up a heavy club and wades aggressively into the throng. A partisan of Kebua's drives away a woman whose biting insults threaten to provoke the men to even greater violence. Other men, who had patiently refrained from getting into the fight until now, are enraged. They also take up their weapons and step into the fight. Mohesiwa's older agnates, men of his father's generation, form a protective ring around the injured youth as he lies on the ground and slowly regains consciousness. Two of Mohesiwa's fiercest agnatic relatives, men that he calls father, conspicuously place themselves between Kebua's group and the injured youth, trembling with constrained rage. Their presence and demeanor are sufficient to bring the fight to a standstill at this level. The participants revert to verbal insults and then gradually leave. Some of the women, dissatisfied with the outcome, continue to provoke the situation. They had fought among themselves in the garden, and they have scores of their own to settle. One of the female residents hurls insults at Mohesiwa's sister and the women of Nanokawa's group, women who were visitors in her village.